So there we go. So welcome everybody. Thank you for coming along. Looking forward to this sort of webinar tonight. It's the first one for a while. So before we get started, might just get you to type into the question box just where you're from. So where are you logging in from tonight? And what's the weather like? More importantly, I'm on the Gold Coast, and it's been a beautiful day in paradise. Yeah, Bundaberg and hot. Yeah. Melbourne and cloudy, Copland Bundy, Adelaide windy and cool, Sydney cooler, Joondalup WA pleasant, Melbourne mid-20s, and a Beale, Boppel. Yeah, Boppel's the home of the macadamia nut for you guys that don't know here in Queensland. Welcome, Yolandi. Perth, Whangarei, hi Leah, Wellington, New Zealand, hi Glenn. Bit stormy. It's all right. It's always like that, isn't it? Windy and stormy in Wellington this time of the year, and Adelaide's really cool. I'm hearing. Okay, so let me just try and get the technology to work a little bit better here. Okay, that's fantastic. Thank you. So we've got people from all over the place. Still got people logging in, and then there's a number of you haven't told me where you're from, but I do know where most of you are from, so that's fantastic. All right, so really looking forward to this tonight. I mean, for 2016, for many of my clients, it was an excellent year. For some people, though, the year wasn't quite what they wanted it to be, and so I'm finding sort of really mixed sort of bag around what's happened in 2016. So I like to start the sort of first webinar of the year off around, well, what do we really need to do, and how can we make it a bit better, and how do we sort of drive the process here, so we make it a good year for planning. Just get your head straight right from the start. Now, so I want you to make sure you're comfortable. If you need to, hope you're relaxed and you've got a drink or something to keep you going. Glass of red wine would be nice. Take some notes. So I hope you've got a pen and paper ready, because we're going to take some notes. We will record this evening, and we are recording at the moment. So we'll post that recording in the next couple of days. So look out for that. We'll send you an email with all the details. So that's all good. I guess when we start to think about things, what's happening at the moment, it's a highly volatile environment. There's lots of change. There's lots more change on the way. Most of the businesses I deal with at the moment are really struggling with selecting opportunities, and what are the opportunities to pick, and how we're going to make the most of the opportunities we've got in front of it. And for me, that all starts with having a clear plan. It's hard to tilt at every windmill that comes along and every opportunity without knowing where you're going and what you're doing. And for me, that's about setting a plan. And it's actually the first thing I did when I came back to work. So on the 16th of January, I came back from my holidays. The first thing I did was sit down and develop a plan for my business and for the year, and start to map out exactly what I expected and how the year would pan out for me. And I use the process that I'm going to take you through tonight. It's quite a simple process. And we're going to talk you through, if you stay to the end, we'll talk you through where you can go to get some help and resources to actually accelerate this process for you and your business. So that's that's the first thing. Change is coming, and it's really there. And I guess some of the challenges that I see for business are that often the plan is too big picture. So often we have a plan that's too strategic and too high level. Or the alternative, we have too much detail and not enough strategy. So we've focused on how many horseshoe nails we have and not really worrying about how many horses we've got. So bit of a balance there. I think you need a balance between detail and big picture. Often the team are not engaged in planning or execution, and I think it's important that you do get your team involved at some point. And often we don't have frameworks for implementation. So, we don't think about how we're going to implement it. So a number of people develop plans and they just sit on the shelf and we never look at them again. And I think you can work around that. And the other thing I find all the time is that one of the big challenges, we're just too busy to do whatever the activity is, planning, communicating with the team, doing all that sort of stuff. So everybody just gets too busy. So starting off, I want to do a little exercise for you. So I want you to reflect on 2016. And even if you had a great year, I want you to reflect on it and say, what was the cost to you and your business of ineffective planning and execution in 2016? So you may have had a good plan and not executed it. You may have had no plan and poor execution, or great execution, or whatever. But I often find that there were missed opportunities, there were things you could have done better, all that sort of stuff, and they have some cost to you. Now, those costs can be financial, personal, they can be damage to your brand, whatever, or just simply lost opportunities. So I want you to write it down for me, and I want you to put down the sort of, think about what the cost was. If you can put a number on it, that would be fabulous, and then type it into the questions area. So yeah, and won't give any names out while I'm doing this, but thanks. So we've got so just type your cost in the major cost area, and if you can put $1 on it, that's great. So we've got time delay on major projects. So yeah, real challenge. Yep. Staff burnout from being under-resourced. Yep. Yeah, not having your website finished. Yeah, so people just can't contact you. Yeah, not effectively concluding some projects. Yeah, and I think it's a good one. If your website's not finished, you don't have any idea of what opportunities you've lost along the way. Yeah, not effectively strengthening your brand. So just by inactivity, you end up with poor brand building. Yeah, distractions. Yeah, just dealing with them poorly. It just costs you money and time, doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah, so another big opportunity was missing out on those exchange rate transactions. Yep. Okay. Yeah, not launched effectively, website not done, those sorts of things. So lots of different costs and stuff that we can often pick up. Yeah. So we've got one here: lost opportunity revenue, 200K. Yeah. Yeah, and that's and that's probably a fair estimate. I think you'll be surprised at how much money it does cost you from losing opportunities, even in a relatively small business. Okay, it's great. So, just think through. What's the real cost of me not sitting down and spending time doing this? And I don't mean just doing it once at the start of the year, but doing it effectively throughout the year. So I want you to keep a notice of those. And if you wrote a number down, that'd be great. And if you haven't written a number down, I'd like you to just think about it as we're moving through the program and possibly write one down. So the model we've used in the past is, hang on, I jumped ahead, sorry about that. So the webinar today, we're going to build a plan that highlights the key areas for you to focus on. So just a simple plan that highlights the key areas you need to focus on. I'm going to talk about cascading that plan down to the right level of detail, about getting your team involved in the process, and establishing some good frameworks for execution. All right, so that's the sort of my brief for you tonight. In the past, we've run a couple of different webinars on this. So last year, I think we ran 2 sort of planning webinars, one at the start of the year like this one, another one around the start of the financial year. And this was the sort of model we talked about. And I really like this model because it's I think it's powerful. So as it says, if you're going to optimize your outcomes, you need to have some clarity around the destination. So the top right-hand corner, some clarity around the destination. You need then to take responsibility for making it happen. Okay, so that's personal responsibility and also allocating responsibility. But I see it more as you taking responsibility to do it. You then need to collaborate with your team and collaborate with others in order to get it to happen. Once you've got some collaboration, you can actually start to take action and you get some movement, and you get movement towards your destination. Now, if you look at the outer circle, when you've got a destination and you take responsibility, you get conviction. Okay, so you start to be really convinced that this is what you're going to do, and you get that focus and that energy that comes from that. When you've got responsibility and you start to collaborate with others, you start to build synergy. Okay, so you build powerful synergies which give you leverage. Once you collaborate and you get movement and activity, you start to build momentum. And movement towards your destination gives you progress. So it's all for me about starts with that destination. Unless we've got a clear destination of where we're going, then I think we're a bit bit of a challenge, really. And so today is really around talking around just mapping out the destination, a little bit of how we're going to get there, but it's absolutely critical to the process that you get that destination clear. So the planning framework that I'd like to work through with my clients is this one. So make sure we've got a strategic plan, 3 to 5 year duration. So you need to be updated regularly, but so we've got a plan for 3 to 5 years, which is a high level strategic document. We then have a annual operating plan, for the next 12 months. So we drill that down and say, what do we have to do in the next 12 months if we're going to achieve our 5-year goals? So what are the things we need to focus on in the next 12 months? And then we go, if we're going to achieve our 12-month plan, let's break it down to some 90-day chunks. Okay, and I like the 90-day time frame. It's about the right sort of time frame for you to stay focused, get some activity, get some momentum, and build some momentum without being too short, because there are other things you need to be doing. And so it's a great time frame. Now, sitting behind this is this concept of now, where, how, which we've talked about plenty of other webinars. It sits behind everything. It's the basis of all good planning and problem solving routines. But basically, it says, where are we now? Where do we need to be in the future? Then how are we going to get there? Typically, we jump from here I am now, I've got a problem, let's try and fix it, without putting some context around the where. So you'll see that the now, where, how flows through the sort of stuff that we're going to do this evening. Now, I want to talk to you about building an AOP, or an annual operating plan. All right, so these are simple annual plans. I don't believe planning has to be complex and detailed, but they're simple annual plans. And I guess the premise is with them is, what do we need to focus on? What are the 3 or 4 big things we need to focus on in the next 12 months if we're going to move ourselves towards our 5-year strategic plan or our 3-year strategic plan? So what do we need to focus on? And I use just a simple framework like this. You can see it's based around now, where, how. The key issues are the now, the big rocks, description, milestones at the top of the other where, and then the how is down the bottom. That's the strategies and actions and those sort of things. And so we'll just go quickly through the plan, module that I use. So up in the top left-hand corner, I'm assuming you already have a strategic plan. So my assumption here is that you do have a 3 to 5 year strategic plan. We don't have the time to take you through a strategic planning process tonight, but my assumption is that you have a 3 to 5 year strategic plan, and you're now looking to actually implement those strategies and make it happen. So what are the key issues facing you at the moment? So what are the looming key issues that are facing you in the next 12 months? And just put them down there. You need, 5 key issues. So what are the key issues? Then I want you to think around, what are the 3 or 4 big rocks? What are the 3 or 4 big things that we need to focus on if we are going to achieve our strategic plan? Now, the big rocks name comes from Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, when he's talking about time management. And he's got, it's an exercise where he's got a container, he's got some big rocks, he's got some gravel, he's got some sand, he's got some water. And he said they all fit in the container, but unless you put the big rocks in first, you can't fit them in. So for me, it's all about, well, what are the big rocks? What are the big things that we need to focus on? 3 or 4 big ticket items that we need to tick off in the next 12 months. So I often ask that question, what are the 3 or 4 things you must nail in the next 12 months? No excuses. I borrowed that from Mike Burke, but it's a great question to ask yourself. So I'm going to ask it for you in a minute, scarily enough. So once you define your big rock, and your big rock could be just something simple as, get more clients, lower our costs, expand our geographic footprint, something like those sort of things. I want you to put a bit of a description in it. So I then get my clients to go, okay, so what's a description of what we're trying to do here? So let's put a bit of, we've got a nice little headline. Let's put a bit of verbiage behind it so that we get some clarity around what it is we're really trying to achieve. And then for that big rock, what are some of the key measures of your success? So what are some of the key measures that you will know that you've started to achieve that big rock? Okay, so just set some key measures. If it's growing in sales, then one of your key measures could be just total sales. It could be percentage of the business from new customers. It could be a whole range of different things. But come up with some key measures and some targets in that space. All right, so we've defined our where fairly carefully there. Then take your big rocks, transfer them down to the bottom, just the headlines, and then think about what are the strategies I'm going to need to focus on in the next 12 months if we're going to achieve that big rock. So strategies are medium-term actions that are large in scope. So what are the medium-term actions that we're going to need to take care of in the next 12 months? So if the big rock was get more clients or grow our client base or customer base or increase sales or something, then your strategies could be around improve our marketing, leverage our sales team, those sorts of things. From those, then you can have specific actions that really drive it. Now, you may just have one big strategy, and that's the big rock is get more customers. The big strategy is develop our e-marketing campaign. Right? Could be the thing you really need to do in the next 12 months, so that's what you're going to do. You can then break that down into 3 or 4 key actions that you're going to take over the next 12 months. So again, these actions are reasonably large because remember, we're going to cascade this down to 90 days. So, your strategies and your actions can be reasonably large without the detail. But think about who needs to be responsible for that task. When do they need to have it completed by? And that's really important. So it's not all the people responsible for doing the task or that action. It's who's responsible for making sure it's done, and when's a realistic time frame for them to have that completed. Then you've got some space to think about what resources, people, capital are we going to need to actually execute on that big rock. Now, there may be no additional capital required or no additional people required or no additional resources. So resources, I'm thinking of tools and software and other things you may need to deliver machinery, equipment, that sort of stuff. All right, so just put some notes and make some notes in there on the sort of things that you're going to need to do and work through all those big rocks. So does that make sense? So just a quick stop and prop and quick check. Does that template sort of make sense to you? Do you have any real questions around any elements of it before we move on? Do just type them into the questionnaire, and I'll see. If it's all good, just type in all good or something similar. So does the template make sense? Yep. It's a reasonably simple concept. Any elements of it don't resonate with you? Yep. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, it is a good template. Yeah, it is a really powerful tool, and everything. Yep. Yeah, the big. No, so we've got a question here saying, are the big rocks for each key issue? I don't tend to map things that closely, Glenn, because often you'll find that one big rock, if you like, one key big action will actually address a number of issues. Yeah. So it's not necessarily to map them closely to each issue, but you do want to check back and make sure that your big rocks are starting to address your key issues, definitely. Yeah. But I don't map them closely. All right. Thanks, mate. Okay. Should you have only one AOP? Rod, it depends. So for a small business, yeah, I'd only have one AOP. So I have one AOP for my business. But where I use this with larger businesses, we often have a company-wide AOP, and then we'll drill it down by department or area or something, and we'll have an annual operating plan for that area. So we do cascade it, and we'll talk a bit about that later. So do cascade the annual operating plans to get them down to the right level. So in a large business, but you might find that the big rocks carry through, that you want to have some corporate big rocks that you focus on. It could be cost reduction, it could be improved customer service, that sort of stuff. You want those to filter through into the annual operating plans for each of your departments. Hope that makes sense. Okay. Yeah, you could have an annual operating plan for your business and one for your personal. Yeah, like an annual plan. Yeah, definitely. And Um, I tend to have a personal plan. I probably don't use this I probably don't use this template for it, but I certainly could. I hadn't really thought about that, but yeah, I use the standard Mindshop template for that, Nabil. Standard one page plan template, but yeah, you could definitely. All right, so that's our annual operating plan. So the big rocks. So what are your three big rocks for 2017? And I just want you to take a few minutes and think this through. Now, you can work through some processes. So we've used strategic SWOT as a tool in the past, and that's what I tend to use if we're doing it with a larger group. But sometimes it's just a matter of sitting back and saying, what are the three big rocks that I really need to focus on? And sometimes your intuition will just gives you the right answers in that space. You say, what do I really need to focus on? Not a bad idea to pressure test it with a colleague or a partner or somebody, just to see that you're on the mark, or even your customers. You might even be able to have a good enough relationship to do that with them, but focus on them. Another technique I like is from Mr. Buffett here. He's the world's richest man, I think, isn't he? Or very close to. Anyway, his goal setting, I really like it. So write down the top 25 things you need to do. If you're having trouble, it doesn't have to be 25, but just write down as many as you can. So all the things you think you need to do and you need to focus on in the next 12 months, the big ticket items. And then rank them in order of importance, and then delete the bottom 20 or 22 in this case. So you end up with 3 or 4. Okay. So, so you can brainstorm, write down a number of them, and start to get some clarity. Now, you can also group them up. So if you write out your 25, you can actually find that a number of them have a common element. Okay, so there's a common theme to a number of them. If you group them together into common themes, then you can actually probably come up with what the big rock is that really covers off all those actions. So that's another way around it. But sometimes, for me, I just sat down and looked at mine and said, this is where I am now. This is where I want to be at the end of the year. What are the 3 or 4 things I really need to focus on? Because they're big items. They're big ticket items you want to focus on. So your big rocks are, not little operational issues. They're 3 or 4 big things you need to focus on. All right, so you've guessed it. I want you to write down your 3 big rocks for 2017. So grab a piece of paper, write them down. If you'd like to share them with me, that'd be just wonderful, and type them up in the question box. But what are the 3 or 4 big rocks that you need to focus on in 2017? Just take a couple of minutes. Again, I won't mention any names, so you can keep your big rocks to yourself. Yeah, so we've got some workforce planning. It's a great process for actually planning out all your people resources and stuff across your business. Stronger focus on current clients. We've got growth in certain geographic areas. Improve our net profitability in a regional area. Implement change management processes. Roll out new business systems. Fantastic. Focus on revenue. Narrow your business focus. Improve sales processes. Double your revenue target from last year. Wonderful work. Get your website up. A website may not be a big rock, just to critique things a little bit. Often a website is just part of a bigger marketing campaign. So you might want to take that big rock up a bit, because one of your strategies might be in the next 12 months will be to build your website. But once you've got your website up, you probably need to think about what you're going to do with it. So I would take that up to a higher level. Find some new customers. Get some leverage. Get some funding. Fun and relationships, so focus on those. More clients, increase revenue. Excellent. Expand your capabilities. Great one. Expand your personal capabilities. Fabulous. All right. That's good. We go here. Deliberate systems and processes for managing innovation. What a great one. Yeah, grow our revenue, continue to enhance our employees' skills and knowledge. Excellent. So you've got it. So they're all your they're big rocks. So they're, so you start to plug those into the template, and and away you go, and you just start to map them out. All right, and then once you've got those, I guess the big rocks, then you need to go and start to break them down and start to put out. Okay, well, what are the strategies that I've got in that place? Yeah. What are the three? It might be just one strategy, could be two strategies, but what are the strategies? So if I just go back to the template, wrong template. Just go back to the template. So what are the strategies that I need to put in place in order to execute on this? So in the next 12 months, what are two or three strategies? So like I said, so if what your strategy really is to improve your marketing, one of your strategies could be to get our website focused, but another one then could be to build our electronic profile, or I don't know, add in some resources, whole heap of different things into it. Add some online resources, or build my credibility or capabilities. As part of the website. Then you can break it down to specific actions. So in terms of building the website, what are the 3 or 4 things you need to do to get your website launched? All that sort of stuff. So map it out. Who's going to be responsible for that? If you're a one-man band, then it's probably you. But if you've got a bigger team, you might want to allocate that to some other people. And when's a realistic time frame? So too often we put really poor time frames in for this sort of stuff, and we don't quite get it to where we want to be. All right, so once we've got our annual operating plan and you've mapped all that out, it doesn't take that long. Sit around with a glass of wine or whatever and just map it out. But once you've got your one-page plan mapped out, so your annual operating plan mapped out, then what I like to do is to cascade that down to a 90-day plan. Okay, so using the same model, we then cascade this down to 90 days. Why 90 days? I don't know. I find monthly plans, by the time you've got the plan written, the month's over. If it's only every 2 months, I think it just comes around a bit too quickly. So I like 90 days as an action plan. It just starts to put things into perspective for me. So the components of the 90-day plan, we set up a different one for each quarter. So we've got the calendar there. On that calendar, I want you to mark in there important dates. When important key people are going on leave, when you're not going to be available, all those sorts of things, deadlines for when you need to have things done by, just all that sort of stuff that's going to get in the way of your planning. So I find it's great to just put it on one sort of calendar and map it out, so you've got some, some perspective on what you're trying to do. That's on the top left there. So on the top right-hand side, I then start at that point and say, righto, so what's our theme going to be for this next quarter? All right, so I reckon it's a great idea if you've got a team, or even if you're just by yourself, to have a theme. And it could be, consolidation or something else. We're going to consolidate in this month, or we're going to grow, or we're going to do something in this quarter. Okay, so give it a name, give it a theme. What are some of the measures that will tell you you're being successful in the next 90 days? Okay. Now, you may steal them from your annual operating plan, some of them, but what are some of the 90-day measures that are going to be there? And they might be, complete something by a certain time, or just tick things off. I don't like those sort of measures. I prefer you say we're going to, want to see an increase in sales of X, or increase our margin by 3 percentage points, or whatever it might be. The last one's a bit important, because it's, if we achieve our targets and we're actually on track, what are the celebrations and rewards? And it might be something as simple as a barbecue with your team. It could be taking yourself out to dinner. Just do something to celebrate it. One thing we don't do enough of in business is celebrate our wins. So if you're having some wins, make sure you take the time to celebrate and lock in the good feeling and stuff that comes from that celebration, because you'll find that it will make you more successful in the long term. So make sure you take the time to celebrate your wins. All right. Now, you've got to be a bit careful you don't go crazy, but do that. Okay. Is that your reward? Is it? We're going to retire. Okay. So needs to be a big big plan then. All right, so down the bottom part, then you just take your big rocks from your annual operating plan and plug them in here, and look at the strategies out of your annual operating plan, and just say, which of those strategies are we going to work on in the next 90 days? Now, you don't put them all down because you may not work on all of them. You may only work on 2 of your big rocks in the next 90 days, and you may just have, one strategy for each of them. Break down the actions that you're actually going to focus on, because a number of your strategies, your AOP strategies, will go over 90 days. So what are the actions I'm going to do in the next 90 days? So be quite specific about that, and then be quite specific about the who and the when. Okay, does that make sense? All right, so same question. Does that template make sense for you? Are there any elements of it that don't make sense or don't resonate, or you think are superfluous? All good? Thanks, Luke. Thanks, Evan. Now, the big rocks, question here from Justin, are the big rocks here subsets of the big rocks on the AOP? They're the same big rocks, but you may have all 4 of your big rocks from the AOP there. You may have all 4 of your big rocks, or you may just decide to only work on 1 or 2 of them. Yeah, that's fine. So they would be a subset. Yes, that's correct, Justin. All right. Makes sense? All right. Cool. So obviously then when you get to I can share some work examples. Probably don't have anything right at the moment I can throw up that hasn't got anybody else's data or my information in it. But why don't I? It's a good question, Rod. So why don't I put up some cleaned examples onto the up with the resources after the website after the webinar. Will that make sense? Yeah. Yeah. Calendar is quite useful, Glenn. Yeah, I find it quite useful just to map out what's going on. Now, at the end of the quarter, I actually sit down and do another quarter. So we've got a series of templates. They're not hard to make, and we just they've all got the current calendar for 2017 in them. So we just plug those the next quarter. I tend to wait towards the end of the first quarter before I develop the next plan. I have seen people who go and map the whole year out. That makes sense to some extent, but I think you want to be prepared to revise those quarterly plans you've already done pretty swiftly, because you'll find that you'll either underestimate what you're capable of, or overestimate what you're capable of, and you'll need to adjust the plans. So I just don't feel like wasting the energy on those sorts of things until I'm ready to go. So I want you to do just one little exercise for me. I would like you just to pick one big rock, and then just think, what actions must you complete in the next 90 days if you're going to deliver on that? So just take one of the big rocks that you wrote down before, and one action that you must complete in the next 90 days. One thing you must do. Type it in the question box when you're ready. So what's one thing you need to do in the next 90 days if you're going to tick off one of your big rocks? Yep. Finalise a contract with a new client. Good one. That's what you want to do. Yep. Get enough monthly sponsors to cover off your staff wages. That's excellent. Yep. Yep. Yeah, growth in Brisbane employer BDM. Excellent. Okay, I've got myself a job there. Apparently, Angela's going to use me to help her with it as a proxy for designing webinars. Okay, workforce planning. Yeah, finalise all role descriptions. Great work. Yep. Identify best 5 to 10 prospects and target them. Great stuff. All right, so just focus on those activities. What are the things we need to focus on and the things we need to deliver on? All right, I'm going to keep moving on. We're sort of hooking into time a bit here. So the 90-day planning process for me is I guess a function of getting the plan to the right level of detail. So as I said, too many people have all the detail at the wrong level. I find putting all the detail in at the annual operating plan phase is just having the detail at the wrong level completely. And what we want to do is drop it down to 90 days where we can put that detail in it. You put a heap of detail into the 90-day plan, tick it all off and do that sort of stuff. And you don't end up with this great big annual operating plan where you're saying, I'm going to have this done in September and this bit done in October and all that sort of stuff. I just find it gets too complex and too busy. So break it down to the right level. It's also a great way then to communicate with your team. All right. So the next part of the next phase is, once you've got your plans, is you need to take responsibility. And I mean this really clearly, that it's not about delegating responsibility to somebody else. I find the biggest challenges for most people is they just simply don't take responsibility for your actions or your inaction. Okay, we always get caught up being busy doing other things, which I often find are not as strategic as they need to be, not focused on helping us achieve our outcomes. They're just make work. They're just things that get in the way. So take some responsibility. Make sure you focus your actions and take that you and if you're taking inaction, if you're not doing things, own up to it and talk about why, and start to work out some ways to move through the barriers that are going to get you there. Okay, so take responsibility for those actions. All right, collaboration, really important. So, engaging with the team. No point you having a plan, putting in your drawer, and none of your team see it. So I really think we've got to think about how we collaborate with the team. A couple of good ways to that, as we alluded to before, is to cascade the plan. Both your AOPs and your 90-day plans, we can cascade them down to the right level. So as I said, we will have plans at a business level, an annual operating plan at a business level. There's no reason you can't break that down to a team level or a location level or a departmental level, depends on how your business is structured, to get your planning at the right level, have an AOP at that level. And I think it was Nabil suggested you could also do that as an individual level, as a personal plan, but you could also do it as a business plan. Yep. So individuals, what's your annual plan? What are you planning to do over the next 12 months, and how does that all fit together? All right. So for me, it's about cascading the plan to get the detail at the right level. Yeah. So a question from Harvey: any tips on managing the inevitable time delay from each level of cascading? Sorry, Harvey, you're talking about the time delay and getting the planning done. If that's the case, then what I would normally do is we would start so normally start the planning process. What I do with clients is let's say we want to kick off for the new financial year. Sitting on my clients and say, right, what's the likely lead times for this stuff? So let's get the annual operating plan for the business done in say March. So that gives us time to review it and then circulate it. And that gives the departments then time to build off that business AOP and start to get that executed. So you just got to have the right lead time for your planning so that you all start at the same day. Yeah. Yeah, I don't necessarily cascade if you're a one-person business, Trevor. No, so I just have one annual operating plan for me. Yeah. Yeah, similar, just like your budgeting cycle, exactly, Harvey. Just same process. So you just got to give yourself enough time to do all the necessary things that you need to do in order to make it happen. Yeah, so that makes sense. Yeah, but so in larger businesses, you would definitely cascade it for sure. All right, and cascade the annual operating plan. And when you've got those cascaded, then I would cascade out the 90-day plans as well. All right. You may find that if you've got enough departments, You actually don't need a 90-day business plan for the business. You just need 90-day plans at a team level or a departmental level or whatever, and possibly then an individual level. Yeah. So just be mindful. I don't believe in doing planning for planning's sake. So if it's not going to be an effective tool, then don't use it at that level. All right. It's about getting the detail at the right level in your business. Okay. About movement, just make it happen. I guess if you think about it, what are some of the activities that you can do to maintain momentum and get movement on your plans? So what are some of the things that come to mind? And what are some of the, share a little bit of best practice, if you like, or group think around what are some of the activities that you do to maintain momentum and get movement on your plans? For me, I print them out and post them up on my wall. I take copies with me. I've got copies in, you know, um, all over the place, so that I've always got a copy on whatever device I've got. I've got copies of my plans. I look at them regularly. Is probably the most important thing that I do. Yep. So I pull them out and I look at them and I use them as a live document. And certainly the clients that I have that do the best in this planning, we come back to our plans and look at them regularly, and they use them regularly. They carry them around with them, and at the end of the year, the strategic plan's looking pretty haggard. The annual operating plan's all beaten up, that sort of stuff. Yeah. So set some deadlines on a whiteboard. So put them up on a whiteboard. That's really good. Set some weekly targets. So break it down to weekly targets to make sure your activity's up there. Yep. Yeah. So develop a 90-day program for each client with monthly reviews. That's really good. So yeah, you could break it down to a client level. So you could be really focused on what you're doing. Yeah, that's good. Frame regular meeting agendas around the big rocks and key strategic imperatives. It's a great one, Harvey, because I find that's important for just keeping the focus on it. So you want to bring it up at regular meetings with your team. We need to communicate some of this stuff with them. And a great way to communicate it is actually to sit down with them, take them through the plan, but also demonstrate that you're focused on it by bringing it up at meetings, looking back at it regularly, reviewing it with your senior leadership teams at different times. All right, so lots of good activities there to maintain momentum. But, again, it's about you driving it. If you don't own it, you don't drive it, then it won't happen, is my experience. So it's something that's a key part of you being a leader in your business. Yeah. How regularly do I review activity? Thinking weekly. I would. It depends on what's going on, Evan. I guess if I'm really busy, I might not have a chance to look at it for a week. If you're just under the pump for a week, but at other times, I would look at it weekly. I certainly carry it with me wherever I am. It's on the wall. I'm constantly looking at it and thinking, what am I doing? So I have both my AOP and my 90-day plan with me. They're on the wall here now, doing that sort of stuff. Yeah, share your plan, and your progress made with key stakeholders. Yeah, great one. So, thanks, Rod. So, really good idea to share that plan, and share the progress you're making. So, where are we up to? How are we going with this? Not as a punitive thing, but as a motivational thing. Okay. Yeah, could share it with your wife. Yeah. How do I cope with getting behind? I guess, Sue, it inevitably happens that we're far more optimistic in our planning than we are in reality, because life just gets in the way and we all get busy and that sort of stuff. So I tend to just, I actually revise my plan fairly regularly. So I actually do my plans in pencil, so I rub them out and rewrite them. I change the dates, I move things around. I actually upload my plans into Mindshop Online as well. So for those of you who've got access to the Mindshop platform, I actually load my plans up in there and put reminders on them, so the system actually sends me reminders for it. But basically, if I'm getting behind, I've either got to allocate some more time to get into it, or change my date so there's something more realistic, or just map my plan to what I'm capable of and what I've got the capacity for. Yeah. Is there any other questions around that? Very good. All right, so back to our model, and I think the destinations are a key part to it. So getting that plan in place, I think, is absolutely the critical part of this whole process. And that's why I sit down, as I said, the first thing I do every year is sit down, make a plan, drill it down. I'm pretty clear on what I have to do in the first 90 days. This webinar is one of the first things I had to do in the first 90 days. It's been a while since I've done any webinars, so I've mapped out a webinar program with my team, and we're just putting that in place now. So so we mapped out that sort of stuff, and then getting some collaboration, taking responsibility for your own actions, and then actually taking action. Okay, just movement, and you'll find that success breeds success. So if you actually start to tick off things off the box, you actually get much more motivated than you do for not beating yourself up because you're not doing things, and you'll find you're much more positive in how you do things. Now, just a quick question. What are the major barriers that you see? What are the major barriers that are going to get in the way of you planning and executing your plan in 2017? What are things that are going to get in the way for you? It's all good to do your plan, but what's going to, some of you are going to have trouble even developing the plan. So what's going to get in the way? Yeah, time commitments to other stuff. Yep. It's always other stuff to do. Yeah. So it's about setting priorities. Yeah. 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 Tying up some loose ends. Lack of self-belief. Well, that's fairly honest. Thanks for that. Yeah. So sometimes you do have to have that confidence. So so what do you need to? I think part of it is, well, what do you need to do to get your headspace in the right place and to do those sorts of things. Emails. Yeah, you got to learn to manage those emails. Overthinking things. Yeah, so we'll often overplan, overthink. Yeah, we aim for perfection. So imperfect action is my sort of catchphrase. Let's get it 80% right and launch it and go with it. Yeah, fear of failure. Yeah, afraid that if I do something, then it's going to fail. So I'd rather just not do it. So what's the point of having a plan if I'm only going to beat myself up about it later? Yeah. Teams want to revert to old systems and that sort of stuff. Yeah. Relevant paperwork. Yeah, okay. Got to get rid of that email and paperwork. Yeah. Competing interest. Yeah. Work, family, and life. Yeah, you got to get that life balance. My experience is, though, unless you actually get the plan right, it's really hard to get the life balance because you end up doing stuff that you don't need to be doing because you're sort of being reactive, not proactive in the system. So I'd encourage you to build those plans. Yeah. So all that sort of stuff. Yeah. But time and energy and motivation, they're all sorts of challenges. So in terms of, I guess, of helping you out with some solutions, one of the things that couple of things that I've thought of. So some tools and support to make it happen. So the first thing is just do it. So I'll give you a copy of the templates. Just get out and do them. Send me an email if you like and say, hey, I'm going to do these, and I'll send them to you on this date. So if you like, I'm happy for you to make me accountable for you, and I'll schedule an email and I'll flick it back to you and say, hey, how you going with that, and just chase you up on it. Obviously, if you're part of the Mindshop Online system, you can upload your action in there and put a due date on it. Put a short due date on it so you don't push it out for 3 months. This is something, I sat down, it wouldn't have taken me an hour to do my annual operating plan and a 90-day plan. Yeah. I probably slowed it down just so I had a couple of glasses of red wine, but I would do that. So just do it. So just get on and do it if you want to. Now, if you want a bit more motivation and you want to, if you'd like a bit more help in pulling this together to structure it and get your plan right, I've been talking to a few people who said it would be great if there was some sort of program that you could put together for us, Russ, that would really help us accelerate this. So I've called it my 30-day accelerator program. So what I'm suggesting is over the month of February, now I've thought about it, February's only got 28 days, but anyway, let's just run with it. That you sit down, we take a challenge, and that we push you through it step by step through the process of developing your annual operating plan. So I've built a 10-module training program, if you like. Each module will take you through a different step in the process. Some more complex steps around analysing your now, developing your where, developing your big rocks, that sort of stuff. but it'll take you through the process of developing your annual operating plan, your 90-day plans, and help you get there. So we'll give you a workbook that you can print off and use that to leverage up the online course. And to keep you motivated and on track, what we're going to do is have weekly group coaching calls. So if you you will log on at a time every week. Log on, use GoToMeeting, and you can ask all the questions you like. I'll pump you for progress. You'll have to front up and do that. Of course, you can avoid those if you want to, but the aim is just to keep you motivated, to keep you on board, to address any issues and challenges that you may have as part of that process. Happy to give you email support as well, and then we'll give you all the templates and all that sort of stuff that you'll need to get that done. Of course, not that nice a guy that will do it for free. Of course, if you're a client of mine, an existing client of mine, of course, you can have access to this program as part of your coaching services, so that's all fine. But if you're not, for the 10 module course, detailed workbook, some group coaching calls, access to all the templates and email support, $495 plus GST, and we'll get going. So the program starts tonight, so I plan to kick it off tonight straight away, so we're not going to make any changes to that. Want to get started, let's get into it. First coaching call is going to be on next Wednesday morning, 8 a.m. New South Wales Victorian time. I'll try to balance it, so if you're from WA, it's not too early in the morning for you. New Zealand, it's not too late in the day for you, all that sort of stuff. It's a bit of a challenge this time of year. But if you'd like to get into it, really happy to have you on board. Just if you want to type into the questionnaire, yeah, I'm on board, that'd be great, and I'll make sure we get back to you. You can simply just click on the link and go to the SBD website, my old website. Still having some technical challenges of getting the new one up, but we'll have it up soon. And there's a 30-day challenge icon there you can click on. It'll take you through to registration. So I don't know if you're keen. Does it sound like something that would be of use to you? You might give me some feedback on whether it makes any sense or not. Yeah, Harvard is a bargain. Yeah. Does the concept make sense? Is it something that I think that, if you look back to that initial thing you did where you said what did it cost you last year, missed opportunities, those sorts of things, then I think a small investment to help you just get some motivation and working with other people to get it happening. All right. Righto. Good on you, Rod. Wonderful. Okay. So, yeah, I agree, Trevor. February is a difficult month for me as well. I've got a lot of travel on in February, but, we'll just keep putting it off if we don't do it. So now you will get access to the training program and all that sort of stuff for 6 months, so you can keep going and doing it. But I really want to get the coaching calls, the group coaching calls happening quickly, so you actually get some work there. Yeah, Justin. Yeah, that'll be fine. Be good to have you on board. The coaching calls, the group coaching calls. I've got a question there about the group coaching calls. So if you've got any questions about any of the elements, how will they work? We will log on at the time. I'll actually poll you the day before to see what sort of questions you may have, so that I can at least do some preparation and have some answers for you. We'll then convene the call, quick round the table to understand where people are at and what their progress has been and where they're having challenges, that sort of stuff. Answer any questions. We'll do the questions you've submitted first, and then we'll keep going around until everybody's questions are answered. So it might go for 20 minutes, it might go for 2 hours, I'm not sure. It all depends how many questions that you may have. All right. So if you're keen to come on board, just either flick me an email and we can get you registered, or just go to the website and sign up. All the details there, but we're kicking it off tonight, so all be go. All right, so that's the accelerator program. Just a question about the coaching, the 8 a.m. time frame. I guess I'm happy to modify when the calls are within reason for depends on who signs up. Really happy to help people out in that space. If we can change the timing to make things a little bit better for people, really happy to do that. I've just suggested they might be the times, but we'll need to have a reasonable consensus from everybody, and it's going to be hard to please everybody. But happy to do that. Okay, so that's all good. Of course, if you want some intensive coaching, you're more than welcome to sign up, and I'll sign on as a full coaching client, and we'll develop a tailored program for you and your team, and obviously developing a plan will be a big part of that to get going. All right, so thanks very much. Our next webinar, we're just finalising the details of it now, but the next webinar will be in early March, and we'll be sending you out details of that in the very near future. My plan is to this year to have not only me waffling on and talking to you, but we'll get some guest speakers in, and we might try a couple of different formats, some interview formats with different business people and a few other things. So I've got some ideas there. One of my plans is also, I wouldn't mind, I'm going to send out a simple survey just to get some feedback from you on some of the topics that you might like to hear. We've been through most of the topics that you guys wanted in past webinars, so we're going to carry on and do that. All right, so my apologies, we've got a little bit over time, but thanks very much. Again, if you've got any questions, please let me know. Happy to help you out, and if not, I'll see you again soon, and have a great evening. Yep. Thanks, Kathy. Thanks, Harvey. Yeah, I'll see you at the Sevens, mate. I'll have a beer. That'll be good. See you in a couple of weeks, Rod, sorry. Justin, thank you. See you, Trevor. Thanks, Angela. Thanks, Kathy. Hope it's all going well. Okay. Thanks, Tony. Hope it's not too hot out in Dubbo, mate. Glenn in New Zealand. I'm over there in a couple of weeks. No, Tony, yeah, see you on the 14th. All right, Ev, that'd be good, mate. Look forward to talking tomorrow. 42 and a half. That's way too hot, Tony. That is just ridiculous. Yeah, I think we had 33 today, and we thought the place was melting. Thanks, y'all. I'll go nuts this year. I will. Be a big year. All right. Well, we'll leave it there. Thanks very much, everybody. Hope you've enjoyed it. We'll send you a recording, and you can review this whenever you like. Okay. Thanks.